adding that cost to 14%? Our trucking cost is lowest in the world. Our railway moving cost is lowest in the world. Our inland waterway cost is lowest in the world. Where are we heading? My labor cost is lower in the world. Please, we need to study where is that 14% cost coming up. And I think that inefficiency needs to go. Today, look at it. If Toyota Kirloskar operating plant in Mysore, picking up equipment from North, and there's only 6-hour in-plant inventory. They manage it so well. What they did, very simple. Said just put 50 trucks, which keeps on going round from Mysore into Delhi. And that's how the inventory is on the road, not in the plant. I think so. The manufacturer, our customer, has to learn in partnership with us to get into this new idea and optimize their inventory. Today, because of the COVID, inventories level have gone up. You've seen warehouses, rentals are going up because people will have to store more. I think it's time that we all as a group, along with the government, get out of this cycle of this COVID. COVID is going to be there. There are more people dying out of tuberculosis and malaria in our country than what is dying out of COVID. Let's fight together. Let's work together. Let's bring new process. Let's bring digitization. Let's bring ease of doing business. Let's work on infrastructure. The cost of building infrastructure is the lowest in the country today. You can build, if you're building warehouse at 1,400 rupees a square feet, the same cost will be about 1,100 rupees a square feet. Let's invest our money. There's no return money coming in, putting money in the bank. The saving rate has gone down at 3.3%. The HDFC just declared that fixed deposit rates. Let's not invest our money into FD. Put it into our business. We have a great future. 130 billion people will eat, drink, write, wear, everything they need. The logistic is the human touch. We are the human touch of operation. Let's make good use of it, build our human force, build our technology, build our infrastructure. This is the right time. If you have money, invest. If you have money, if you want to become an entrepreneur, put your wife's ornaments, sell it them, your gold, and put your money in logistic business. This is the time to come in. Don't shy away. Don't worry about anything. It is going to go from tenfold from here. Take it from me. And we have a bright future, especially my friends in East India. I wish I could speak Bangla. I wish I was there in Calcutta. I wish I was born in Calcutta. Grab it. Stop, border with Bangladesh, hindrance which are coming in. Make your border open. Let people fly into Calcutta. I can't come into Calcutta because you stop me coming into Calcutta. If you stop coming me in, I will not invest money. Let us invite people to come invest money. Open your airports, open your roads, open your borders, and let's grow it together. It's time to come in. My humble request to the government and to the people there. This is the time to make money. It is now time for East India and now time for Northeast. Over to you, Jajan.
Thank you, Tushar Bhai. More I hear you, listen to you, more I learn. And it's a never-ending learning experience from you. And I would definitely be honored to have you as one of the speakers here in this session. Thank you, Tushar Bhai, once again for being with us. Really a very big insight you have given and fantastic outlook you have given. And that's a very encouraging, in fact, for all of us in this part of the region. Thank you once again. I would now like to invite Mr. Mehra, Mr. A.K. Mehra, Deputy Chairman, KOPT. Kolkata Port, as we know it, is only a riverine port which services a huge hinterland, Seven Sisters, the Nepal, the foreign neighboring countries like Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, even Myanmar to an extent. and the rest of the India connects with Calcutta port. So this is a very important port. It plays a major role, and I would now request Mr. Mehra to speak in this session, please. Welcome, Mr. Mehra.
Good afternoon, Mr. Raha, and very good afternoon to my co-panelist. It is really indeed an honor for me to speak to this August gathering and take part in this very renowned panelist. Just before I should say something, I would say that only about 10 days back I have joined this port. I was Deputy Chairman Cochin Port before that. Only on 19th of August I joined here. So whatever I am going to tell, my experience about post COVID-19 was majorly in the Cochin port. So there may be references of the Cochin port you may find during my speech. So all the very good afternoon to everybody. So as per the agenda set for this meeting, that COVID-19, what is the opportunities and the new normals. To me, this is a great opportunity for the port sector, especially in the eastern part, to come up to the expectations of the exporters and importers. Mr. Setia, while inaugurating his speech, he was telling there was 18% down all over major port, the cargo handling between in the first quarter, up to July. But if you see deep into that, you will find not that all the cargo have declined. There are surges in the iron ores and pellets by about 24%. There are surges in the fertilizer raw material. This is increased by another 24, that is also another 24%. So it is not that everything is bleak during the COVID situation or post-COVID situation. And if you see particularly the container handling in all over India, especially my reference will be with the Cochin, because about 25% of the Cochin cargo is container, and here also in Calcutta. If you see the month of April, month of May was really very down, but from June onwards, it has started reviving, especially in container, both in Calcutta and Cochin I have seen. And even in Cochin, it is more than from July onwards, it has already started taking over the month-to-month comparison between 1920 and 2021. And in Calcutta also, our average handling was 55,000 TEUs per month. Last month, we have reached about 45,000. This month, we are hoping to cross 48, and by October, we will be reaching this average monthly figure. So to my mind, this COVID situation or this downward trend will definitely be matched from October onwards, and the next part of this present fiscal will definitely be a growth, because you cannot go down further. This is one point. Second point is that during this COVID situation, why I am telling this is a great opportunity. If you see the other facilities that a port is providing, that may not be very much as regards reference to Calcutta port, but if you see the Cochin during this COVID situation, when I left that port around on the 17th of this month, by this time more than 450, I repeat the number, 450 ships, the crew change have taken place within the Cochin harbor. This is a huge number, and all big ships have come and changes their crew within 4 to 6 hours, and they gone. And you know this Cochin is almost only 7 degrees from the international sea route, from the Gulf countries to Colombo and Singapore. So this is the best location. This is one. And also I have seen this surge in the bunkering. Those ships which are coming for the crew change, and also this increase in bunkering also I have seen. Similarly in Calcutta, taking Haldia into consideration, not only increase in the fertilizer raw material handling, but iron ore and idle pellets. So this is not that this COVID has given us a downtrend. Yes, it has given a downtrend, but opens up the opportunities as well. As regards the facilities that we are going to provide, we in Calcutta Port has taken a conscious decision that this is the time we have to build our infrastructure. We have to tighten our belt, so that once the cargo started growing from October and November onwards, we should be capable enough to handle those things. There are certain positive measures that we have taken. I'll list it out in a few minutes or so. But before that, I want to mention that not only the port sector, but as a whole logistics sector, if you see the railway freights, the railway handling has also started showing a revival. Because there was no passenger train, rails could provide more number of rakes in certain ports like Vizag I have seen, which port I have served in Haldia also and Paradeep also. So this is another opportunity for these ports to handle more cargo. Now coming to the Calcutta port, there are few measures that we have taken so that we can cope up with the opportunities, and when this revival will actually already started, when it will picking up. One of the major incidents that we recently have taken is the movement of northeast cargo through Chattogram. This has recently happened. A successful trial has been over in the month of July, and we are expecting that this will take up further. This is a new opportunity. This has opened up for Calcutta to supply materials to the northeast through Bangladesh waters. If you see this, Bangladesh we used to handle about 300, only 300 TEUs per month during 70s, which has now gone up to 5 folds. Maybe the figure is not so great to inform, but this showing the trend. And there are certain measures in the ease of doing business that Calcutta Port has already taken up. One of such measures is that the number 4 MS mobile harbor crane has been provided in the number 3 MS dock. That means 4 of our berths are now MSC compliant, and they are handling with this MSC, which has reduced the turnaround time of the ships as well as the container handling. In NS dock, this total full rake handling for the Nepal cargo has already started. This is another important issues, and in the process, the rake turnaround time have been reduced from 20 hours to 8 hours. Similarly, in other part of the NS dock, another railway linkages with full rake has been is already going on, and expectedly it will be over by October. So during the latter part of the year in 4 NSD and 5 NSD, you will also be able to take a full rake for both container as well as other cargo. And on top of it, in the Khidirpur dock, this is the oldest dock in the country. We have gone ahead for a PPP mode on the western side. About the estimated cost will be about 183 crores for taking 3 berths modernization with the equipment, so that further container handling can take place. Another important decision we have taken to have a transloader in the Sagar, in the Diamond Harbour for the containers, so that big ships come and transload their containers in the barges which will come to the port for handling. These are certain measures that we are going ahead to do. You also know that a liquid bulk terminal at the Salukkhali, little north of Haldia dock, concession agreement has been signed little bit of about 2 years back, but because of the environmental clearance and other things, the project got little delayed, but only in the month of May we got the environmental clearance, and we are hopeful another couple of months the financial closure will be completed and the project will take a start. That will include about 3.5 million ton additional non-POL product handling capacity there, adding to the kitty of Haldia dock complex. Number 3 berth of the Haldia dock, which is the oldest berth for handling. Earlier it was iron ore handling, thereafter it was converted to coal, but the machineries are old. We have already computed the cost and going for PPP project for entire modernization of the berth and the yard equipment. That will be around more than 300 odd crores project. So these we have taken up, and all this decision has been taken during this COVID situation, just to gear up ourselves to meet the challenges and the opportunities that will open up after the COVID situation. And regarding automation and digitization, my co-panelists have already mentioned. I can tell during this COVID situation, this Calcutta port has gone for the e-office, because most major part of the lockdown period and unlock 1 and unlock 2 period, and still today also many of the officers has to work from home. So we have very quickly gone into e-office business so that they can work from the home comfortably without any hindrance. And if you see the all India figures also, during this lockdown period, most of the ports have worked with their employees from 15 to 30%. And there is not a single ship that has been delayed as far as Calcutta is concerned, and as well as Cochin is concerned, because these two ports have served during the last 6 months or so. So I am very confident that once this unlock period will over and the economy will start again, already in the revival path, it will take further revival. Ports, all our Indian ports will definitely take the challenge of meeting the requirements of the exporter importers and the logistics supply chain providers, and we are ready for it, ready to take the challenge. And we are hopeful that Indian economy, maybe this year may be a little down, but it will definitely take a turn in the coming years, and it will definitely help all the exporters, importers, industries, as well as the ports. Thank you, and over to Mr. Raha.
Thank you, Mr. Mehra. Thank you very much. It's really an honor to have you in amongst us. And in such a short notice, you have made yourself available to speak on this particular forum. We are really grateful to you. Thank you very much for being with us, sir, this evening. My next speaker, panelist is Mr. Mike Formosa, who is the MD and CEO of PSA. And I can very confidently tell all of you that if we never, had an issue once they took over the operations here, that the left behind of the containers without us knowing, or containers been misrouted, it's not been heard of now. It's a thing of past. So that's kind of an achievement they have had, and he has done. And I wish him all the best, and I'm sure he will add a lot of values this evening with his in-depth knowledge and with his international background. Mr. Mike Formosa, please. Welcome, Mr. Mike Formosa.
Thanks very much, Mr. Raha. That's very kind of you. I think really a credit to our team in Kolkata, and also together with the Port Trust there. I think at the beginning, Mr. Setia was talking about trade and how it's hit. I can tell you from our global perspective, at least for container volumes, it's true. Unfortunately, India is one of the worst hit in terms of the drop in trade. But there are positives in there. And I think the big one is the resilience that's been shown. From our perspective, we've been very impressed. How the respective port trusts that we've worked with have actually tried very hard to keep things going and move very quickly to remove a lot of the obstacles for operations to continue. I'm pleased to say that, touch wood, to date in our 4 terminals across India, we've handled every single scheduled vessel. And many more. We haven't had to turn anybody away. Like Mr. Setia said at the beginning, I think the biggest problem has been a shortage of labour, particularly contract labour. And it's been hard. People have either gone back to their hometowns, or they haven't physically been able to get into the ports. And this has been a factor, I think, putting pressure on the system. But at the same time, I think things have kept moving across the entire industry. The logistics and ports and maritime may not be necessarily a vote winner or something that's in your face every day, but people know it when things and goods don't get through, and the impact comes through very quickly. And I think when we talk about this resilience, I think someone was talking earlier about customs. It's true. I think customs have done a fantastic job also in removing a lot of the obstacles and actually moving things faster. There's less face-to-face interaction. There's more online. So where do we go from here? I think that the question is, we really have to accelerate, and we have to rely more on this resilience. From the top level, there has to be a plan, a big plan. There can't be multiple plans. To give you an example, I think There's 3 plans out there at the moment for India's transshipment hub, or maybe 4. The Andamans and Nicobars was mentioned recently. There was Cochin recently, Adani with gap viability funding and developing Vizhinjam. The country doesn't have infinite resources, so there should be a real decision-making process in terms of where to allocate the resources. Not everybody can have a deep-sea terminal. Not everybody needs a deep-sea terminal. The function of a port is simply to move goods and the information associated with those goods from one mode of transport to another safely, securely, and efficiently. That's all. Logistics is about connecting the customer to the supply chain that we're just a part of. So I think rail in particular has got a huge part to play in all of this. I think the volumes have certainly been more robust during this period. And from a container terminal perspective, we actually hit all-time highs. In JNPT, we were doing as much as 25% of the volume by rail, considerably higher. In fact, we actually hit all-time highs across all our terminals, even in Kolkata, where it reached just under 11%. In Chennai, it was about 22%. And over 120 trains were actually moved a short distance to a nearby ICD just to evacuate the terminal. And of course, at a time like this, when you've got a shortage of people, there's roadblocks and things like that, rail is the perfect mode of transport, along with inland waterways where they're available, to actually move things on block. The question is, what's stopping it? I think we have to give a lot of credit, though, to Indian Railways and the train operators and customs. Indian Railways did come out very quickly with some free movement of empty containers and empty flats, and they've continued with some short distance incentives, which I think is very welcome. But we have to keep moving in that direction. If you go globally, there's very often a break-even point calculated for when it's cheaper or when it makes sense to move by road or by rail. I think in India it's something like 800 kilometers, whereas in some of the European countries it's just a couple of hundred kilometers. Now the DFC is going to be a great game changer for this, albeit with some slight delays. But in the meantime, there's a lot that can be done. Now, it might surprise you if I give you 2 facts now. Number one is that JNPT is usually a couple of days faster than Mundra by rail in both directions to the Delhi area, despite the distance being longer. The second one is that with, I guess, less passenger trains on the tracks, we actually saw, we were tracking it, the transit time from discharge vessel to arriving at ICD KD in Delhi for 38 hours from JNPT. So that tells you what's possible, even with the existing infrastructure. Now, there's no, I've been working here now almost 5 years. I've worked in quite a few other places too. There's no shortage of creativity, ability, or entrepreneurial skill here in the logistics sector. Far from it. What's needed is very much to unlock a lot of the bottlenecks in this. And I think that there's 2 major bottlenecks really. First, it's the infrastructure. It's targeting the right infrastructure in the right locations, particularly the last mile infrastructure. You can look at Kolkata, you can look at JNPT to a degree, and I think many of the private ports have really been able to thrive because the major ports have been lacking on the infrastructure. The second part of that is also the regulatory infrastructure. I think the whole industries has sprung up handling this. When you look at developments such as the E-Seal in Kolkata, very welcome. I think it's helping the Kolkata trade win back some of the Nepal volume. But the reality is Kolkata used to have, I think, 100% almost of the Nepal trade. It's now only got about 50%. The rest is going through Vizag. Now, from a geographic perspective, that doesn't make sense at all. So obviously the systems costs before the E-Seals came in actually made quite a difference from this. So these are sort of things that, from our perspective, need to be really accelerated. And we take a positive view on this because we've seen in the last few months a lot of things really move along and have a difference that are making a positive impact on the supply chain. I think for rail, The other big challenge, of course, is the pricing. It's fixed. I understand at the moment there's something like 50 rakes, just used freight rakes, lying around the country unused. Wow! Imagine what we could do with all of these for India's freight if there was some sort of very exciting pricing in there to encourage them to get back onto the tracks and going. For Kolkata, or at least the eastern region, since 2014, 2015, certainly very glad to be there. It's certainly, in PSA we operate terminals of all different shapes and sizes. The Kolkata is one of the most interesting, one of the most challenging. Built in, I think, KOPT itself, with a rich history of over 150 years, and the very configuration of the terminal and the air in the lock gates brings its own challenges. But we apply the same process that we do into building a multi-million TEU terminal to solving the issues there. And sometimes the solutions don't have to be the most complex or riddled with fancy buzzwords and new systems. Often it's about getting the basics right of moving the cargo from A to B. I think, as Deputy Chairman just mentioned, the Port Trust, particularly in the last sort of 8 years, has done a lot in terms of increasing the capacity, particularly on the rail side, and providing more container yard space, and also a lot of their e-initiatives. I think the trade can also play a role here. Let me give you an example. CFSs typically will come to the terminal and ask for a particular box. We'd like to move towards actually en bloc. So we'll just take the easiest pick for that particular CFS to take and bring to his CFS. Why? Because it means that we don't have to then spend our equipment digging to locate that exact container, because all those containers are going to go to the same CFS anyway. Now, it's not totally black and white, but my reason for sharing this example is really to illustrate that sometimes just some simple solutions can actually make the whole chain move that much further, that much smoother. In an area where we've got limited space, also you have the infrastructure pressures from outside with the road. We obviously want things to move out of the terminal as quickly as possible and stay as short a time as possible as well. Looking beyond Kolkata, I think it was in July that the Prime Minister said the northeast had the potential to be India's growth engine. And I think every one of the 8 northeastern states prior to the pandemic was growing double-digit in terms of GDP. The Chattogram connections have started. There's more going on the inland waterways. The CII webinar, I think about a month ago, there was a very interesting conversation with a gentleman, I think, from the Bangladesh Freight Forward Association, who's also in the business himself. And I think some of the callers, some of the attendees from this side were saying, bring it to Kolkata. Use Kolkata as the air hub for this cargo. I think with the diversity, with the cargo base there, there's a huge amount of untapped potential, and accessing that, I think it is a very good location from Kolkata, if we can get the infrastructure there and also the regulatory infrastructure there to support all of these companies and entrepreneurs out there who are certainly more than capable of unleashing all of this potential. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you all very much for your support.
Thank you very much, Mike. It was really a pleasure to have you amongst us in this session, and it was indeed a very holistic and an in-depth analysis of this region you have done, and it's really worth noting it down. And you have mentioned some of the very key points which are very, very relevant and very, very has got a lot of significance to this region. Thank you once again.
My pleasure.
Here. Thank you. My next speaker panelist is Mr. Ashish Gupta. Name and face is not unknown to anyone who in this logistic world around in this region, and he is a very prominent figure in the logistics sector and a very prominent figure in most of the webinar, seminar, or conference, as you say. And he does not need much of an introduction, but okay, the protocol demands that I introduce him. He is the managing director of TM International, that's a Tata Group. And over to Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, Mr. Raha. Thanks, Kanishk, for inviting me. And Kanishk is a very, very old acquaintance and friend, and I could not refuse when Kanishk invited me for this event. And
sir, it's a pleasure to have you, sir.
No, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I think till now, whatever I've heard in this session, I think I'm very intrigued by what Mr. Tushar Jani told. And see, when everybody says 14%, but nobody knows what the breakup of this 14% is actually. And it's very intriguing actually. I would like to figure out that if at individual component level, we are the lowest cost service providers globally, then how come, on the overall supply chain, we spend 14% of our GDP on logistics? And I think that maybe one of the reasons I can maybe try to attribute it is to the fragmented nature of services and the way the customer behavior is in the country actually. See, if you look at typical procurement organizations across the country, all the manufacturing organizations and other organizations also, you have departments who do everything. Different departments who carry on different activities, and this concept of trusting your vendor and allowing him to go 3PL or 4PL whole out does not exist. So everybody is contracting their piece of work, and everybody is trying to see to it that they get the lowest price from each of the vendors. But if you add up everything, the entire organization ends up paying much more than what they would have paid, and that also is is a pointer to the industry. And the industry also has not made a lot of effort to demonstrate value to the customers. And that is also because of the fact that we do not have a lot of players today who can provide end-to-end solutions to customers, right? From, say, picking up coal from Australia to bringing it onto the port in India, delivering it on a train to the customer, etc. So end-to-end supply chain solutions, multimodal things happening. So I think this typically, I think we are suffering from a third world syndrome on the way the behavior of both the customers and the vendors is, and everybody is moving from transactions to transactions. So this was my take on what Mr. Tushar Jani had told on 14% happening, and I think it is more of a behavioral issue than a structural issue today, because if the industry, the customer, the consumers, and the logistics suppliers get their act together, I think we can bring it down. No amount of infrastructure is going to bring it down. So I think this is one thing which I would request all the logistics service providers to think as to how they can add more value to the customers. And if they feel they add value, then we have to find better ways to demonstrate value to the customers. Well, I know, because when Kanish used to interact with me when I was in handling the supply chain for Tata Steel, we used to discuss the same thing. But the way things are structured, the way organizations are structured, the way work happens, and the way workflow exists in the industry, it becomes very difficult to actually bring down the costs. And the industry can continue to lament for the next 20 years, but this cost is not going to go down unless the buying industry changes its behavior. And I think that is something, next time we have such events, I think we should have 80% participants from the buying industry than the selling industry. So we can. No, it's not about making a a point or scoring a point, but it's about having an open discussion about how things should be going forward. See, now matured economies, you have 4PL service providers, you have fantastic suppliers have built fantastic capabilities because customers have supported them. Unless the support comes from the industry here, it will be very, very difficult to build good suppliers. It will be very difficult to build great logistics companies. So that coming back to the other subject, which is the original reason for having me here was on railways, and I think it's not only about railways. I think last 4 or 5 months have demonstrated the real mettle of the government of India actually. The way all the government departments have responded, whether it is customs, the railways, and as Mr. Tripathi told in the beginning, ports. These are all warriors for us, and everybody is a Corona warrior. And these people have ensured that supply chains have continued to work, factories have continued to churn out products, and the country has seen whatever revenues which has come. So while I would congratulate railways for ensuring that if the freight business did not get impacted, and in fact they were more than willing to bend their knees and accommodate any requirement of the customers. In fact, there were things which we have been asking for many years, and did not take a lot of time for those things to be implemented in the jiffy. So, but if you look at the real issues of the type of industry that we have in Eastern India, and since this chapter is Eastern India chapter, so I would limit my discussions to what is happening in Eastern India. I think in Eastern India, the biggest bottleneck that we face today is on the capacity on tracks, which actually today I think as far as the railway network is concerned is the biggest bottleneck, because with the railway policies anybody can put in their own wagon. So typically, if you really want to solve your own problems, wagon shortages should not exist for more than 6 months, because there is a period in which you can buy a rake and put it on tracks. And I think the real issue going forward would be the track capacity. And I'm very sure that the entire railway brass is fully aware of it, and a lot of work is already happening. But unfortunately, the growth continues to happen in the same term. And whatever we do, is not sufficient. Actually, if you look at typically a port would start to plan for expansion once it hits 65-70% of its capacity. But I think what I've seen on railway networks is unless it hits 120 to 140% of its capacity, debottlenecking doesn't stop. It doesn't start actually. So the trigger points need to change. The system has to become more proactive. And the industry should be encouraged to actually put in their own money if they want to debottleneck a few lines and do the last mile connectivity, etc. And I think some work is already happening on that. So overall, freight traffic will continue to grow on railways. That is what I feel. At least in India, there would be no shortage of traffic. We may have very interesting situation arising maybe another 2 years time when trade flows may significantly change if thermal coal becomes zero in India. Then you will be seeing a very different trade flows, very different rail leads, and I do not know how the situation both on rolling stock and track capacity is going to pan out. Those would be very interesting times, and I think so. I think people who are making decisions should actually start to look at trade flows also, and how trade flows will be impacted. Well, I remember some 5 years back, there was a seminar in Delhi which was chaired by Mr. Suresh Prabhu, and it was titled "Railways Beyond Coal." And he basically came from the view that if renewable energy is the order for the day and country keeps adding more renewable power than fossil fuel power, then railways will have to look at it and therefore need to plan. And then this has been going. This has seen to see flip flops in terms of coal being banned, then again started, etc. So I think long term coal imports, except for steel plants, will not be there. And if Coal India ramps up well, we will have a very different story on railway traffic in Eastern India. It will have a very, very different impact on the ports. It will have very, very different impact on the Indian coastal business. Because we will see a lot of coastal coal moving, a lot of instead of more imports, you have ports handling more of exports or more of cargo for coastal movement. So I think what we need to do as a group and as a logistics community is to look at the trade flow for the next 5 to 10 years before we start committing any major investments, and also to take care of the policy environment which needs to take care of the expected trade flows, because trade flows will happen, they will change. There's no doubt that they will change. The other thing importantly is while the industry will put in, only big guys will be able to put in their own wagons, invest in the railway networks, but there are, you can count them on your fingertips how many people will be able to do it. But if you look at the other people, like Karish mentioned in his initial opening remark, was this parcel business. But this entire business of aggregation of cargo without impacting the efficiency of transportation or the lead time to the customer needs a very, very proactive approach from railways. In fact, I read somewhere I think last 2-3 days back that railways is now planning to start a portal for online portal where people can it will allow railways to aggregate the goods and goods. So I think such digital interventions will also be required by the railways, because I don't think smaller users or the retail users would trust any other logistics company the way they would trust marketplace or a logistics portal where aggregation can happen. Because all said and done, if you remember a book which came in, I think 2008 or 9, it's called The Box. It's about the container industry, and today the view is that how container industry has killed the efficiency in the industry. So because the goods wait longer, you move them slowly, the ships have gone bigger, so you take more time to load them. So a lot of things are happening, and there's a complete theory which is going on around international movement of boxes is actually not such a good thing. So there are contrasting views, contrasting theories. I'll not get into that. But I think e-marketplace, aggregation of traffic by railways, the parcel business and the small, like internationally we have the LCL business. So railways actually has a lot of potential to, Kanish, you yourself are a big aggregator for railways. You know what I'm talking about. If you had the support of a portal, your efficiency could have gone many folds, and instead of you making money, you could have passed on the benefit to the customers actually. No, seriously, because it's nobody's revenue. It is going from one pocket to other pocket.
But I would like to add, sir, I'm not making much money at all, sir.
No, nobody would make money on that because it's a pass-through revenue in most of the cases. There's hardly anything to make because the system has a lot of inefficiency. So that is, what brings me to what Mr. Jani told in the beginning. While at individual level we are lowest cost, but the inherent inefficiencies in the system. Actually, it is the old Amitabh Bachchan movie, The Over the Panch, that case, it's not 4. So I think let's make an attempt to make 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. And in these words, I think I would like to thank the organizers once again for having me here to speak to you and giving me the opportunity to hear some wonderful views from the panelists. Thanks, Kanish. Thank you, Mr. Rao.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. That was very nice of you to, speak the very important and significant points and touch down upon some of the very crucial areas in a very holistic manner with the entire ecosystem of the logistic industry. Now, my next panelist and speaker is Mr. Shom Mishra, Head of Shipping from Tata Steel.
Should remind them.
Mr.
Yeah.
Mishra,
Good evening, Mr. Rao. Good evening, everybody.
good evening.
Yeah, actually, I am a master mariner, so I am Captain Somshekhar Mishra, and I had outbound shipping and shipping operations in Tata Steel.
Maybe you can ask her. Maybe you can ask her.
So
What
it
was
was
the-
nice listening to my panelists, listening to Mr. and Mr. Gupta and others. So one thing I would like to bring forward in this COVID-19 situation is what have we as gone through in this system, in this situation. Sort of, in this last few months since March, while we have seen a lot of efficiencies creeping in, we have seen people standing up to it. Like one of the panelists said, resilience of Indian people. That is true. That really helped. That really helped, and frankly, we were able to surpass a lot of challenges which was thrown our way. Coming to ships which we were sourcing or procuring, we never had initially when they started. I remember we never had any protocol in place. We didn't know which kind of ships to hire, what kind of crew members, what are the requirements. The government was very fast in establishing a SOP, and which really helped us in taking some corrective actions. And like what Mr. Subrat Tripathi has mentioned, PPE was provided, and a lot of things were taken by which this kind of inefficiency, which was supposed to creep in, didn't really creep in. Suddenly, from doing more of imports, we moved to exports. So that was a sudden change, and the agility, what is today a catchword in the whole ecosystem, agility. We saw real agile moves by all the stakeholders. We saw some moves, some steps which all the ports in the East Coast did. Coming to few things now, what my thought is on how do we move ahead. If inefficiency is crept in, whatever we say, it will take a long time for this inefficiency. What we should do as stakeholders in this whole system to remove inefficiencies. Also, in a system, everybody loses. A receiver or a buyer or the whole system loses. So what do we do? So what we realize is going ahead, we have to embrace technology at a fast pace. We have to get into technology where we see something like EBL, something like using blockchain for negotiating documents, where we compress those normal times, which is 3 days, 4 days to 1 day. So unless those kind of things come in, those kind of initiatives are there, we will not be able to come out of this rigmarole, or these inefficiencies will be there for a long time to come. So that is one part which we as a stakeholder should focus on. Try to technology where it's a adopted. So we have electronic bills of lading. Second thing is the human. If the people are really, not able, because of this phone, the human touch is missing. And yes, the human touch is missing. Now something see the trajectory. Once this is the new norm, there has to be growth, there will be a growth trajectory. But what is needed? Yeah, intervention and human touch. But the more game changers going ahead, and I think we really need to think about it, put on our thinking caps, look at how to go about this and at which steps you need technological intervention. Please, okay, we are maybe stepping back, maybe do something about limited analyst. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Mishra. Once again, that was very crisp, very short, very hard-hitting points that you have made. It has really it has got a quite a impact on a such a short, crisp speech of yours. Very impactful speech. And with that, we come to end of the first session of the shipping. And I thank all my panelists and speakers for this, for giving their views and their ideas, which has been worth noticing, and it's worth learning from them. And I thank you once again for them to find time for this. It has been a rather very short notice that they have been given, and we are really grateful. And thank you, gentlemen. With that, I would now like to request Kanishka Sekhia to take over, my colleague.
Thank you. Thank you, Joydeep Da. Thank you so much for moderating this first session. It was a tremendous job done by you. I'll try to do half as good as job as you have done. I think I'll be successful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much
for
putting me in a very high pedestal, but I'm scared because if you come down from there, it hurts.
No, not at all, Joydeep Da. Thank you so much. Moving right along, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the second session, which is Future Freight on Tracks, Growing Freight, the Milestones Ahead. Ashish sir has already touched on most of the salient points, kickstarting this session while we transition from the first one, which I'm grateful for. And without further ado, I would like to call Manoj Kumar sir to speak. I would just like to introduce him to some of you who might not have interacted with him. So Manoj sir is a senior IRTS officer, and he is the CFTM for Southeastern Railway. Earlier, he was working as Director Rail Movement, and he brings with him tremendous expertise and core knowledge about Indian Railways. And I would now hand over the podium to him and ask him to take over. Thank you, Manoj sir.
Thank you, Kanish. Thank you for your Indian Chamber of Commerce to share the views from the railway perspective. And good evening to all. I think for Indian Railway, it is a smooth transition from trying to immediately come to the forefront of ferrying millions of passengers across the country. The moment we accomplish that, thereafter the logical steps could be to move the nation forward. Economies cannot wait. Economies should not wait for anyone. And you all have heard our Honorable Prime Minister say, जान है तो जहां है, but जहां है तब भी जान है, तब ही जान है. We all had to chip in, and we can say we are proud Indian Railway personnel to have chipped in. And as Kanish was one day interacting with me and telling me, reading in newspapers, we are the ones who are trying to move the nation forward. Yes, true. And the number of our own personnel getting not only infected, losing life in course of duty has been too many. But we don't do negative publicity. We just want to be part of the industry, part of the country moving forward. And a very promising fact that has come from everyone like you present in the country, wanting to contribute in industry running, manufacturing sector running, country running, our people getting their essential goods, people getting work, people getting to do work. So we didn't want to be left behind. And it is visible in terms of how have we done it. If you look at it, say July, everybody tries to compare some numbers. Numbers is how we did before this COVID situation, how are we doing in the COVID situation. So except for immediately after that outbreak, say March, if you look at April and May was for us a dull period, we accept it. But look after that, June, July, August. June we did, our performance was, previous year June was say roughly around say 75% what we fared last year. July we came to 94%, near about 94%. And I'm fortunate to be speaking on behalf of Indian Railway and sharing with you. We are going to surpass August 19. So we are doing the hard work, perfect. But it is you who all want to move the nation forward, and we are the partners. And if you look at again how we did it, I know everybody could talk of logistics costs. Logistic cost is one of the highest in the country, say around 14%. But we, as Indian Railway, we didn't go for that. We are not going for any profit making. Okay, we can take some beating, but we have come out with multiple incentives. And multiple incentives may not be in favor of the government, may not be in the favor of the Indian Railways. We wanted to pass on what we are taking a beating to you, your customers. And if you look at, we tried to look at each and every sector. If you look at, say, even coal, we took at iron ore, steel industry, automobile industry, packaging industry, each and every industry, we took it one by one and we have incentivized them. And incentive is not only in terms of say 1%, 2%, it has been up to 40%. Like if you look at power industry to run, those who were taking coals to longer distance, we are trying to give them concession, say starting from 5% to 20%. And you know, the flyers, which is part of cement industry, we have gone for giving concession up to 40%. So just understand, when we give you concession, we are taking a beating. Our cost of economics, cost of operation, is fixed cost. We run passenger train or not. You cannot say you are not running passenger train, but please remember, our fixed cost is fixed. Our overhead cost cannot come down. Maybe 2-3% what we used to pay as overtime, what you call OT, overtime allowances, those are not there. But not running passenger train has not given any benefit to the railway in terms of the fixed cost. Still, we have gone a step ahead and tried to pass on concession. And you know, concession has been too many. I was just counting the numbers. I think roughly starting month of July, led by obviously our Prime Minister, but the person who are part of that costing, part of making rules, roughly we have given 27 type of concessions. And if you ask us, I think there are hardly any industry which we have not touched. To look at containers, containerization, we have gone for roughly 4 type of concession. Look at steel industry, we have gone for 3 type of concession. We have tried to touch each and every industry. Then coming to how? Coming to industry, what is their requirement, say in the COVID situation? We have gone for innovations. Like there is a customer, he comes with his particular demand. How does he wants to move, say, from place A, B, C? He may have a kind of a circular kind of move. He or she may have multiple commodity to be moved. In say multiple type of cargo they have, in multiple wagons they want to move. Those also we have come with a scheme. We are incentivizing them. We are encouraging them. Come to tell us your requirement. We will try to dovetail a scheme for you which can allow you to move your cargo, say from place A, B, C to Z also. So we all the time we are trying to innovate. We are trying to take your requirement so that we can give you a sort of package to you. Then when you come to how we are reaching out to you, very uniquely, or you can say necessity is mother of invention, but here necessity is mother of requirement. We have come out with business development units. I know we have gone to few customers we are speaking to. I know Mr. Malik is there, Ashish was there, and another speaker I know he was also speaking. Through business development units, we have a team of officers reaching out to industry, talking to them. If you want to move your cargo, you have certain requirement, which was not getting fulfilled, say, previous to this COVID situation, but you want to move now, however small it may be. Say you have 20 tons, you have 500 tons, 1,500 tons. Those also we can tailor-make for you to move. This is one of the initiatives that we have taken. And Member Traffic is our apex person in the Delhi. For the first time, you can say in the history of Indian Railway, he has already started writing to 500 business houses of this country, telling them, reaching out to them, tell us, gentlemen, tell us what, ladies and gentlemen, what you want us to do for you. What you want us to be partner for your progress. How you want us to be country to move forward. Economics is opening, and if you want it to be open progressively with railways, we are there with you. That's all. I think that is one of the things we got a feedback also. Many of them have come with few suggestions which we incorporate and pass on to them also. As Kanishk was saying, ease of doing business. I think COVID situation, Mr. Mehra, Deputy Chairman, was mentioning that we have come out with e-office. We have not only come with the e-office, we have come with, don't come to us. We don't want customer to come to us in COVID situation, either walking, running, or in any kind of vehicle. You do everything from your own home. How we started doing that, just explain in a minute. Whatever is your requirement, you term it as your demand. Make your demand electronically. You register with Indian Railways. Moment you are registered, the minute we are ready to provide you your cargo to be moved by our railway vehicles, we inform you, you load it, it is moved, and all this information you can track in your mobile app, Indian Railway gov.in, voice, you can track your cargo movement, and moment it reaches, that information comes to you. It can come to you in SMS also, you can get to know also. And the freight, that charges that you have to pay to us, you are paying it electronically. This e-payment module is there for everyone. I know around 70 to 74% of our customers are utilizing them. And the end part of it, when it reaches your destination, we call it RR, railway receipt. Those are also being passed on to you through electronically. It is called ERR. So in COVID situation, I got calls, not less than 70 to 75 of our esteemed customer saying, sir, it has been seamless. We are at home. We are somehow asking our person to move cargo to your railhead. We are loading it. It is reaching the destination. Only the last mile, somebody is taking out and going. Otherwise, we don't need to come to the railways. I welcome that. You need not come. Make your demand. We can do the hard work of transporting for you. One of the things that we have done it very well. And as Kanishk said, as Director Rail movement, that was my function, was for functioning as coordinating officer for the coal movement for roughly half of the country. There we started, Mr. Malik will watch for that. Earlier, coal is Kala in some terms also, may not be literally, but figuratively in few cases, 5-6 years back, what had happened. Here we tried again saying, the documentation, that physical documentation was the minimum requirement submitted to the office. I think it was 25th March. We have done away with that. You scan your documents. You mail it to us. We will take it as face value. We trust you. And if you ask me to tell today, I think none of the customer can say, even 1 ton of cargo, if that was to be moved by rail, has not been moved in the name of any documentation, any permission, any kind of railway on the railway account. I think you can say the railway had done it for us, and customers have, again, I can tell you, you have applauded us many a times. Secondly, you have had many issues, small issues, like how you do your payment, how do you charge us, how you penalize us. All those have been eased out. So onus on customer trying to having survey load, it moves, but somehow it gets stuck up in the transition route. Those also have been largely eliminated. I think those things we have come out. Major reliefs have also come. I know COVID situation, you get labor, but not adequate that you should get in normal times. There also we have tried to give you enough time. Whatever time is allowed normally, we have given you double the time wherever you require it, so that you can take your own time, finish your packaging, loading, and at the terminal unloading and loading into trucks and taking out. Those also we have eased out much better for you. And lastly only I could like to tell you, if any one of customers through us, through you, they have any requirement where railways can chip in, we can tailor make any kind of policy for you, or can be part of doing your cargo. You're most welcome. You can please contact us and we'll be there at your service. Thank you, Kanis. Thank you for the team.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. And as always, it's heartening to hear your offer for help, sir. We will all try to take guidance and help from you for the railways movement, and we will work together to take forward, sir. Indeed, a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much again. I would now like to call Mr. Ellen Malik to give us his presentation. Mr. Malik is a veteran of Steel Authority of India, and with his deep expertise in all spheres of the business for Steel Authority, he has now risen over more than 3.5 decades to the post of Executive Director Logistics. And I look forward to hearing Mr. Malik's views. I am sure it will add a lot of value to all of us. Over to you, Mr. Malik.
Am I audible, first of all?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. Good evening, all. I mean, it's exactly, we have approached the weekend evening, but as Subrat in the beginning itself has clarified that for mariners and railway men, there is nothing like Saturday or Sunday. For a steel man also, we need to run our blast furnace 24/7. So absolutely for this industry, at least for supply chain, there is no holiday, no off hours. So we are always on duty. I would take the opportunity of this the presence of Mr. Subrat Tripathi, Mr. A.K. Mehra, and Mr. Manoj Kumar here. I would first like to salute all these COVID warriors in the entire supply chain system, the port management in the eastern sector, Southeastern Railway, the Indian Railways in general. They have all come up to the rescue of the Indian industry, rather Indian economy, in the difficult situation. It's very coincidentally, Mr. Manoj Kumar is here today as CFTM, but I will just try to, why I'm saying they are the real COVID warriors is, on 23rd of March, Monday, when the national lockdown was declared for the first time, I received a message from the EDRM, then EDRM Mr. Manoj Kumar at 10:30, that in order to facilitate seamless movement of rail traffic through EDRM office, it has been decided to allow all sanctions via email. The same day, around 5:30 in the evening, I have received a message from Mr. Subrat Tripathi that all your movements will be seamless, requesting Odisha government and to clarify and instruct district administration. That is the way, in fact, these vital sectors serving the supply chain link, the port system and the railway system, they have addressed to this difficult situation. Yes, COVID-19 is one of the most unfortunate incident in the history of human civilization since World War II. The entire pandemic situation has disturbed the human civilization. But as one of my speaker earlier was telling, that this COVID-19 has in fact become the greatest assembling factor for the entire supply chain system. All the stakeholders today, whether it is Indian Railways, whether it is the service providers, whether it is the port, whether it is the industry at large, all the stakeholders are available for each other today on a 24/7 basis. That is probably the biggest advantage for which we are winning. We are going to win this war. In fact, in the beginning of the national lockdown in March and April, when the industrial scenario was dim, and particularly for the steel industry, the migrant labor issue, the shutting down of factories, the entire logistics chain going haywire, different rakes stranded at different places, the ports confronting the COVID-19 situation, how to cope up with this PPE, how to cope up with the boarding of foreign vessels. The one thing that we probably predicted that to come back to the track of normalcy, it will be 2021. At least the 3/4 will go from this financial year, and that was the thought. But today, as we are approaching the end of August and we are reaching 1st of September in another 2 days' time, all the port sectors, all the railway divisions are now buzz with activity, industrial activity. The movement of freight operation has today the sale, which had gone down, brought down its production to almost 40% level, is back on its track, and we are back with almost 95% production in the month of August. And from September, all normalcy. I was talking to Mr. Manoj Kumar just an hour back, that normalcy in iron ore movement, normalcy in import coal sector from ports to plants, and our outward movement of steel to different domestic entire country will come back in the same fashion, in the same rate as prevalent in the previous year. COVID-19 definitely has taught us a lot of lessons as to how to address each and every challenge in a seamless manner, in a more proactive manner. And all these virtual platforms, as he was telling, that member traffic is going to approach all the industries, 450 industries. In fact, today on this virtual platform, n number of webinars are being conducted by different merchant bodies. We are amongst ports and industry, amongst railways and industry, we are meeting on a virtual platform quite frequently, and trying to solve our problem. Even why to forget about Indian customs, who have also come up with a lot of revisions into their provisions also. Now, when we look forward, what is there? The industrial scene is going to come back. Jaan hai to jahan hai, jahan hai to jaan hai. In that fashion, the way we are looking at National Steel Policy of 2017, when we thought of that, we were thinking of producing 300 million ton of steel in 2030. Whether it was possible or not, going from a level of 112 million ton today, in another 10 years' time, whether we'll be approaching 300 million ton of steel will be possible or not, with the amount of aggressive business design, with the amount of capex that we are going to fund in for all these projects, probably that 2030 dream of 300 million ton steel, if not 300 million ton, at least 270 million ton is going to happen. The way it is going to happen from dedicated freight corridor. Since India, I am talking about Indian Railways, expectation from Indian Railways, all those operational conveniences that Indian Railways has given, all those commercial concessions that Indian Railways has given in a very industry-friendly, customer-friendly manner to support the not only steel industry but all the industries. They have come up with so many schemes. All the and Railways is also open. We are probably having a series of meetings. Another meeting with Railway Board will be on 2nd of September, when we'll be expecting further. And Railways is also going to accommodate, we are sure, all those small issues. I am not going to flag here, but commercial and operational issues are there with ports also. Ports have also increased their efficiency in a very short notice. They have changed the entire system of handling import cargo to export cargo. When there was no domestic market here for last 2 months, all the steel industries were moving their steel, their products, whether it is finished or semi-finished steel, to all the ports, whether it is Dhamra, Paradip, Vizag, or Haldia and Calcutta port. And everywhere we have found that all the ports have effectively handled this. We have been able to meet our LDS. We have been able to make record export figures during this, and that has not contributed to the profit because of the NSR and all, but that has definitely helped us to survive in this sector, because producing and keeping it in our warehouses or stacking it, instead of that, we have got the capital, we have got the money flow in, and by optimizing the exports. Today, when we are talking about the long-term expectation from Indian Railways is dedicated freight corridor, 3,350 kilometer of dedicated freight corridor coming up, connecting from Mumbai to Delhi, connecting Ludhiana to Dankuni, these two freight corridors. These are 81,000 crore, the single largest development project of Indian Railways, which have seen a delay of almost 10 years. Today the situation is such that when there is a delay, they are apprehending that the delay will be further from December 21. The deadline may go up to June 2022. On 24th of August, the railway minister has convened a meeting and asked DFICCL to make up with the time that we have lost. I mean, that is the way that we are approaching now. The industry, each and every sector, each and every ministry, the way we are approaching the problems that are coming up. Probably if the dedicated freight corridor is coming up by December 21, and at least the intent that Mr. Ashish Gupta was telling about the East Coast corridor, which has been declared, the 1114 kilometer long corridor that will be connecting Kharagpur to Vijayawada, will be a game changer for the entire port industry. The industries which are depending on the port, they will be moving. I mean, the 70% of the freight train will come on this track. The faster movement, everybody knows what DFC holds for this industry, and DFC is the ultimate hope if we are looking at a 2030 solution anywhere. How if today we are choked up with this logistics chain, how we are going to address 2030 logistics? DFC will address that. More deep draft ports in the eastern sector will address that. More number of berths. Dhamra port has got a huge expansion plan. Paradip is already expanding mechanized berth. The Cape-enabled berths are coming up. Calcutta port is also, whatever, given its own limitation of riverine port, they are also trying to find out outer berths beyond the lock gate. There is a project of Tajpur port. I mean, all those things, the Purbodaya mission that is the government of India has declared. For that Purbodaya mission, all these stakeholders need to join hands. I must not take much time, but it has become a great enabling factor, this COVID-19, with all its bad things, with all its negative things. We want this COVID-19 to come over that. But fortunate thing that has happened, good thing that has happened for the logistics industry, for the supply chain, is that the new normal, which we were expecting from 2021, has come back in this year itself, by the end of this quarter itself. With that, I thank all of us, all of you. I thank ICC particularly for organizing this wonderful seminar. Well, all of us are participating. Time is the constraint, but we can talk. So many issues are there. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Malik Saab. As always, it's so good to see your enthusiasm, and that comes from your passion for the subject. We are grateful for your time, sir. It's always great hearing you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I would next like to call Mr. Vipul Agarwal, who is the head of supply chain for Havells, and he brings in about 2 decades of experience in this industry. He's a trained mechanical engineer as well as an MBA in supply chain, and he's worked in several industries, including beverages, retail, and now for the last 4 years, he heads the supply chain for Havells, which is one of the fastest growing companies in the country. Welcome, Mr. Agarwal. We look forward to hearing from you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kanishk, and for such a warm welcome. And I think coming to the topic around, so let's say future freight on tracks and growing freight, the milestone ahead, what the topic is. I think if I put COVID into perspective, COVID has acted like a catalyst for the growth of future. So if I see supply chain domain, and as we hear most of our distinguished panelists, that's how I see COVID has played a role over last 6 months So leave aside the negative side of it, I think, which we will overcome very soon. But the positive part of it in the supply chain domain, especially, I'll say it has acted like a catalyst in the kind of behavioral change as well as the process change. So many things could have been done even though COVID, let's say, is not being there. Let's say Mr. Manoj talked about various initiatives they have done. So it is not that somebody is waiting for COVID to happen and then those initiatives have to happen. So there has been some, let's say, background work which must be there happening. And I can talk a lot about my organization also. But I think it has just escalated it and make it a necessity. So in future, what we should learn from it, that we should not bring it to a level that we make it a necessity, and try to keep on improvising ourselves in a much faster way with a sense of urgency. I think that sense of urgency has come with COVID. So if we keep on working throughout 24/7 in our works, and even though we do a lot of transactional stuff with that sense of urgency, maybe the transformational stuff also we need to do with a sense of urgency. So that's how I put it with COVID in perspective. And just to start with, I would like to thank ICC to make me part of this Elite panel. And I have learned a lot, Hannah, personally from the distinguished panelists. And I will share my thoughts more from a customer perspective. Let's say me being the service taker in my current role, and from the rate perspective. Let's say if I put Havels into a consumer goods space, we are using, let's say, rail freight more for our import shipments or export shipments from port to our warehouses or from our plants to the ports. And another big which has come in recently, I think Mr. Manoj must be aware of it, is around the road railer concept, which is a joint concept between the Kirloskar and Indian Railways. I think it's a very exciting concept, and we have started using it last year for a Delhi-Chennai route, and maybe with more scheduling of those shipments, and the key issue of first mile and last mile being taken care by road railer, and the kind of let's say container shipment it has with the, let's say, airbags in place and all those kind of cushions which are there with the technology in place. So that kind of technology we need to leverage and take it to the next level. So I think most of the consumer goods companies have started using it, let's say LGs of the world or Samsungs of the world or even Havels for that matter. And now how do we take it forward to the next level and bring it to, let's say, I think what I see missing is the right marketing and the right, let's say, somewhere I feel still more from the FMCG space I am talking about, the right connect between, let's say, rail freight and the FMCG domain kind of companies, let's say HULs of the world, Pepsis of the world, and if I talk about LG, Samsung, and Havels of the world. How do we make more and more of use of rail freight in a domestic movement, in our domestic supplies? Let's say today we move almost 200 containers every day from our plants to our warehouses in the country. So how out of those 200 containers, a part of it can go to the railway, to the rail freight, which is, I think, is still not there. So there it's a journey which we have to cover. Similarly, in terms of our parcel shipments, either we think of road movement or we straight away think of air movement. So how we can use that rail movement in between, so we don't have the timeline of 8 to 10 days, but same time I can't afford a air shipment of for one day. So if I can live with that medium sized timeline of 3 to 4 days, and how railways can play a role, or let's say rail freight can play a role in a better way. And plus with the fragility of material, kind of material we handle, it needs a different kind of handling at the stations. So whether that kind of confidence can come from how we handle those shipments. So that confidence, I think, is still maybe with my limited understanding is still need to be there. It's still not there to that level. How do we bring that confidence that handling will be proper, there will be no pilferage and all that stuff once the material parcel will happen through. But there is an opportunity. I keep on talking to my team here. Why do we move by air? Why don't we move by rail? We don't get a clear answer कि sir service ही नहीं है, कैसे करें इसको? So that's the kind of answer I keep on getting from my team कि how do we bring it to that level of this thing. So this is one. So while rail freight gives us capacity, gives us sustainability because it consumes almost 9 times lesser, let's say, carbon footprint, and with respect to the road freight, lesser consumption of fuel, and that perspective. But what need to be done that how rail freight is, can we say, ki as convenient or as easy as a road freight? Let's say the comparison, I will put it to the road freight versus, let's say, air freight. So what is the frame? Let's say if road freight is the benchmark for rail freight, what are the things rail freight need to do, not as a competition, but as a, I'll say, you can say a multimodal kind of approach, what we are saying to do. So today, if I have to move shipments, like road railer is definitely one concept which has helped us to deliver first mile and last mile challenges. So what more can be done in that space that together those efficiencies can come in the system? So I think there is an opportunity there to work on, and that will take it to the next level, definitely to the next level. So these are some of the things which I think can take up, and I think lot of similar FMCG companies will have this kind of load because we have lot of voluminous load. Because whatever we talk in tons. So how do we convert this ton into CFTs also? So why ton for rail freight? Why not cubic feet for rail freight? So how do we convert? If I have to move a refrigerator by a rail, I can't pay in ton. Or let's say a Pepsi Lay's chips want to move their Lay's chips by rail, they will not talk in time because it is they're carrying air. So how rail freight can work a lot in that space? And I think to my understanding today is it is 30% of the total country's freight, rail freight. And if it has to be taken to 50%, it has to work in this kind of space. And I think it is more, let's say, margin wise also, it will be much better for railways versus, let's say, a moving coal throughout the year. So, because it will have that kind of margins to pay for. So I think that's where I see a lot of opportunity coming in terms of the future growing. But definitely COVID has brought, it will definitely escalate the whole ecosystem. That's what I believe. So that's from my side, Kanishk. And I think I still have taken a couple of minutes more only. So thanks for it.
Sir, please continue, sir.
Yeah, that's what I think. Somewhere we have to do a time management. One thing what I have personally learned from COVID is time management.
No, it's wonderful, Vipul sir. आपका perspective हमारे लिए बहुत important है, sir. Like Ashish sir said, getting the perspective from the customers is important, sir. So hearing your perspective and especially CFTM and per ton, Manoj sir भी सुन रहे हैं, so I'm sure he will come up with some good suggestions for increasing the business in railways, sir.
Kanish, I can make only one sentence. You have given us a new customer today.
I'll connect you, sir. After this call, I'll definitely connect you, sir.
Yeah, please connect. Thank you.
Thank you. Vipulji, thank you so much for your time, sir. It was absolutely wonderful hearing your thoughts. I would now like to call Mr. Vanya Chaturvedi, who is the head transportation at Bajaj Electricals Limited. Vinay sir also brings in with him more than 16 years of experience in supply chain and logistics. He has worked in several industries, including FMCG, consumer products, and now for the last few years is with Bajaj Electricals, heading their transportation vertical. We look forward to hearing from you, Vinay sir, and getting some value out of your deep expertise, sir. So over to you, Vinay sir.
Thank you, Kanix, and good evening to all panelists. And it's my pleasure to listening and discussion with such a senior people and industry veteran. So start from the railway perspective in FMCG and FMCD industry. So the first of all, the railway industry is known for the fertilizers, coal, steel, and grains movement. So first of all, we need to remove the tab from the commodity movement. We need to at least create a platform where the customer can be connected through rail transport. Like there are a lot of opportunities comes in like Amazon, Flipkart. They are still trying to increase their movement by road only. But in railway transport, there is no facility available to attract this kind of a volume. As Mr. Vipul rightly said, that there is no mechanism of the solid material to the volume-based product like our industry. So what I think that the railway should look at the solution designing, not the pricing kind of solution, like a solution that if there is any kind of volume with the volume, then what will be our pricing and what will be our solution. Also that the railway also has to think about the reduction in the cost actually, as everybody is saying that the freight cost is on very higher side, but without the support of railway, Indian cost cannot come down. And railways also, just becoming the B2B kind of a industry. We are doing only B2B, like plant to plant, port to port, like that. So railway also look at the volume of B2C, business to customer and business to consumer. A lot of opportunities available in market, and even the as a part of industry, we do not have a kind of a faith then material will deliver or not material will deliver at what time. So these are kind of a thought from my side, and if railway can develop a kind of online thing like kind of the aggregator model, as lot of startup company comes in, they are doing the aggregator model and they are running a lot of trucks. And so, in my opinion, that the railway also should think about the aggregator model, and the some railway also has to tie up with the warehousing company close to their their facility. Still, that I'm not able to see the kind of upgradation in railway yard. The still railway yards are likely to known for the loading of steel and commodity. So at least there should be some quality upgradation in the yard, that there should be some proper shed for the FMCG and FMCG industry, where we can store our material properly and load our material. So, and the opportunity for railways are very immense, because FMCG industry and the FMCG industry and the e-commerce industry is growing like anything. So railway has a very nice platform to support the cost industry and the Indian industry as well. So this is from my side, correct.
Thank you, Vinay sir. Thank you for sharing your deep insights, sir. Always good to hear from a customer and try to understand his problems. आपने points बहुत अच्छे उठाए हैं, sir. We will definitely take it up. And just to add to this, sir, the railways has started, parcel train movement, which is something which is basically going to help a lot of aggregation and movement of smaller tonnages. Besides, what we are doing for steel and coal. So that's something that we can take it up. And thank you, Vanessa, for your time. It was wonderful to hear from you as always, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Just add one sentence for Mr. Chaturvedi.
हाँ, मनोज sir, बोलिए sir.
We aggregator come freight forwarders model in place. We have
Yes,
aggregator model.
Okay.
Right, sir. Moving on, I would like to call my co-panelist and final speaker for the evening today, Mr. Jasjeet Sethi, who is the CEO of TCI Supply Chain Services. He has the arduous task of being the last speaker. So, but I'm sure Jasjeet sir is up to it. He's an industry veteran, and I'm sure he will keep us all entertained and enlighten us with his deep expertise. So, Jasjeet sir, over to you. We look forward to hearing from you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sethia. It's been a very good panel, and I enjoyed listening to everybody. So I will keep it very short, but maybe I'll give a different perspective overall. So at TCI, we do movement by road. We have about 10,000 trucks on the road any given day. We also do coastal movement. We are one of the largest in coastal movement, have about 7 ships on the coastal waters, both East Coast and West Coast. We also into rail movement. We, besides the joint venture with Concor, we also do a lot of movement by NMGs and the AFTO wagons. And we are also into warehousing. We have about 12 billion square feet of warehousing space. So in terms of supply chain, we are there in all the areas. So whatever I would speak would be with that background. So I think first of all, before we blow the victory bugle for railways, let's keep in mind three things. First, during the COVID, what actually happened was that the road trucks went off, so there was no other alternative. So rail had to come in. Second is that the passenger trains also were stopped. So earlier the freight trains which were running in lot of delays had the tracks to themselves. I know of cases of east to west in under 60 hours, which used to be 6 to 7 days earlier. So what actually has happened for rail freight with passenger trains being off is a golden time where everything became a dedicated freight corridor. And the competition, which was the road, was off. Why? Because the road requires the infrastructure of exit points, which were not there. Drivers were not there, so it's the right time. But you know, what is the purpose of logistics? It is to enable commerce. It is not to move goods. The difference in that. And the difference here is that, for example, if you are moving bulk cargo, 500 tons, 1000 tons, it's the big companies who survive. But the smaller traders, the lifeline of our country, they perish. So what has been a big casualty of COVID-19? Don't look at the tonnages. Look at the parcel cargo, look at the LTL. That part has suffered very badly. And what you would have is that the small traders who probably want to send about 200, 300 kgs, they could not do business in this time. So the bigger companies became even bigger and stronger. And we had an unequal playing field for people who could not consolidate cargo. So I think that has been a very big and very major part of this, which we must also consider. Yes, we are about 70-80% of our levels of pre-COVID, but not where it is concerned with the overall volume of the traders. Going forward, I think all the modes need to work together, need to work in tandem and in competition with each other. That is a very important part of the overall logistics scenario, because the first and last mile is as important as the middle mile as well. Railway provides a middle mile, railway and shipping, and so does the airline cargo. We have had instances where even airline cargo has impacted a lot of the pharma movement in the country. We have had decent amount of warehousing and stocks, but we have actually been consuming more from stocks than we have been, actually making the chain tighter. Before the COVID, the time for market from a plant, let's say, was 30 days. Now it's gone to 60 days because people are stocking more at the end point. So somewhere we have become a bit inefficient as well. My last point would be is I think currently when looking at things, we see only operations. From a business point of view, I think the financials are very important. Today, Railway has done very good operations and we are also part of that success story. But how strong is the railway financially? Has any company become financially stronger in the last 6 months? If no, and the railway which already was in trouble because of other reasons earlier, including the 7th pay commission as well, what happens to the railway's financial strength? Would that not be a problem for it going forward? Look at the DFC. 2005 was the first presentation I went to in Bombay about DFC. I'll retire in 5 years. Probably I'll be happy tab tak agar ye ban jaye to. So it's 20 years since being conceived. So it's not going to be easy, I think, for railways to sustain financially. So while we blow the victory bugle ki ye humne kar liya, but today it is just operations. When look at the financial part of it, maybe next 2-3 months, we might find the trouble always comes in a bit later. It is right now we have got the momentum of the past, but the impact of the last 6 months is going to cut deep into us. All the companies, including the transport companies like us as well. So I think we should be a bit cognizant of that fact and look at those things as well. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sethi Saab. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It's a good circle of life that the last speech is given by Mr. Sethi and the vote of thanks will be given by Mr. Sethia. So, there's a continuity there. So, for the paucity of time, we don't have time for Q&A now. But Paromita, if there's any questions, we can take maybe at most a couple of questions before I give the vote of thanks. Paromita?
Yes, Mr. Sethia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you, Paromita.
Yeah.
If there are a couple of questions for any of the panelists, please.
Yeah. I'll just see what are the questions. Just a minute, please. Anyone has just a minute.
So there's one question that has come for Manoj sir. That Manoj sir, one of our listeners is asking that when do you see the volumes for railways going up to pre-COVID times? You said that it's already improved quite a lot, but overall, when do you see the volumes going back to normal and the start of the passenger traffic? When do you envisage? Just a benchmark. What is your thought process that when could passenger traffic also get back on track?
Kanish, first part of your question answer is this August we have already surpassed last year August, that is August 2019, and the way things are happening in the country in terms of manufacturing sector getting back, transportation across the country going up and up. I think it should be an upper curve only, and we should look hereafter. Second part of the question, that is passenger train. Basically it has to be decided by at the level of minister and his minister. But we have some indication to make ready, like we have to make our trains, coaches ready anytime. Like suppose a direction comes 3 days time, we are ready. So goodness is the level of 3 days time, say 72 hours. So, but the decision will come only from the Prime Minister with his cabinet.
Wonderful, sir. No, that's very heartening to hear, sir, that our level of readiness is as little as 72 hours. So that's very heartening to know, sir. I am sure public at large will be very happy to hear that, sir.
Kanish, I'll just add one thing.
Sir.
I think yesterday we got a letter from Chief Secretary, West Bengal and Home Secretary, saying us to be ready for the suburban and the metro train movement. That is the internal sharing. And we are getting ourselves ready in a day's time. So
Wonderful, sir.
Entire protocol is put in place with all safety measures. Moment they say start today, then we'll be ready today. And we assure us that.
That's very, very heartening to hear, sir. Thank you for sharing that news with all of us, sir. And with this, for the paucity of time, I would like to propose a vote of thanks. I would start obviously with our speakers, all of them, for taking the time out on a Saturday evening, sharing their thoughts with all of us as well as all of our listeners. So thank you to each and every one of you. That's something that needs to be appreciated. I should also like to thank the session chair for ports, Mr. Jaideep Raha. He did a tremendous job. Thank you, sir, for your time and efforts. And I would be amiss in my duties if I did not thank the entire team of Indian Chamber, including Paromita and Dr. Singh for his continued guidance. So with this, I would like to thank all of you, and I wish you all a very good night. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.